welcome to the 8th game of the First World Chess Championship. In the previous game, held on February 5, 1886, Wilhelm Steinitz secured a victory over Johannes Zukertort in 35 moves, narrowing the match score to 4-3, still in favor of Zukertort. This victory was very important for Steinitz, as it marked his second consecutive win and showed a clear change in momentum. Today's game took place on February 8, 1886, at the Harmony Club in St. Louis. An interesting coincidence, as it's the 8th game on the 8th day of the month. In this match, Wilhelm Steinitz played with the white pieces, while Johannes Zukertort commanded the black pieces. An interesting fact about this championship is its unique format. The match continues until one player achieves 10 wins, and draws do not count toward this total. This makes every victory extremely valuable and increases pressure on both players who are fighting hard for the title. Now, let's explore the strategies and key moments of this important 8th game together. We've now reached a key moment in the 8th game of the first World Chess Championship. After a tense battle, this match between Wilhelm Steinitz and Johannes Zukertort ended in a draw. With this result, Zukertort maintains his lead in the championship, with the match score standing at 4 wins for Zukertort, 3 wins for Steinitz, and 1 draw. As the players prepare for their next encounter, let's take a moment to step back into the year 1886 and explore how some famous newspapers of the day reported on this historic game. St. Louis Globe-Democrat, on February 9, 1886, published the below article. Predictions were freely circulated among the prominent chess players present in Harmony Hall yesterday afternoon, before the commencement of the game, that the ultimate result of the championship series would find Steinitz in the lead. The reasons advanced in support of these prophecies were based upon the brilliant chess the German has been playing here. There can be no doubt but that in the 2 preceding games, Zukertort had been out-generaled and overmatched. Both of these games were considered from a theoretic standpoint much more masterly than those played in the East. There, the odds were greatly favoring Zukertort, as Steinitz was unwell and playing in exceedingly bad form. Here he has struck his playing gait and is more devoted and careful of his work. Since his arrival in this city, Dr. Zukertort has been unwell, extremely nervous, and only obtaining sleep at long intervals. This condition of affairs has had an apparent effect on his nervous system, and his friends claim that this is one reason he lost ground here. The game yesterday was the 3rd one of the series to be played here, and was of unusual interest from the painful knowledge that the rules governing the match stipulated that 3 1 games for one player should close the series in any one place. And for this reason, if Steinitz won the game, the chess world in St. Petersburg, Louis would have seen their last championship game. For this cause alone, there were many expressed desires, unpatriotic but sincere, that the little Russian would take the game, in order that more of this brilliant playing might be witnessed here. There was a troubled look upon the broad forehead of Dr. J. H. Zukertort when he entered the hall of the Harmony Club in company with Max Judd and other well-known chess players. There were wrinkles everywhere noticeable, and his face was unusually pale. When he entered the room in which the games are being played, he inspected the chessboard as usual, and then went out in an adjoining room for season of mediation and prayer. While he was out, his opponent, Herr Wilhelm Steinitz, arrived, and everything being supposed to be all right, the players seated themselves for the contest. Zukertort had the black, Steinitz the white. The latter had the move, and a pawn went to king's 4th. The game was known as the Ruy Lopez, and had a brisk inauguration. During the first half hour, more moves were made than during any game played before between these champions. This was not a foretaste of what was to follow, for after this the play was more deliberate than ever before on the part of both. Zukertort was, however, much the more impetuous of the two. The game had proceeded only a short way when the discovery was made that the ingenious little clock, which is the sole timekeeper of the movers, had ceased to operate. A suspension of operations was at once made and the contrivance taken to a neighboring jeweler's shop where half an hour was lost while it was being repaired. During this interval, the little Russian crossed over to the reporter's table and delivered a rather lengthy but interesting dissertation on the relation of the press to the chess player. He never complained, he said, or anything, not even of the St. Louis streets, with the exception of his treatment at the hands of the American newspapers. There was one thing he had noticed, that nearly every report that had been written concerning him was sheer nonsense. New York papers had made him pose in the role of a Hungarian, a Russian, an Englishman, and a Frenchman, while in fact he was not a native of any of these countries. He seldom spoke of these things, but meant no offense. The talk, which covered a period of half an hour, touched upon general topics and exhibited the resources of his broad mind and extended experience. There was a wide respect created for his intellectual caliber among the hearers who were entertained by him, by his cleverness in conversation. The time-keeping mechanism having been repaired was returned in hot haste, and the play went on. When the 15th move was made, chances were about even, although several prominent players thought the prospects slightly favored the white. The study of the players was not marked at this session by such excessive nervousness. There was less of the restless uneasiness and squally repartee. No special incidents marked the progress of the game until Zukertort proposed a draw, and Steinitz, owing to his faint condition, concluded to accept it. There is a good deal of talk among the spectators regarding the necessity of such a termination of the game, but according to the rules governing the game, the draw was properly authorized. This game, then, does not change the situation in the least. Next Wednesday at 2 o'clock, another game will be played, and which will probably be finished. The attendance was as large as at any previous session, and there was considerable interest shown during its continuance. On the day of the match, February 8th, 1886, the St. Louis Post-Dispatch published the below article, "The Eighth Chess Game. Steinitz and Zukertort renew their battle at Harmony Club today." The beautiful character of the third day of the chess match between Messrs. Zukertort and Steinitz had an enthusing effect up the players, as was evidenced by Steinitz leaving his quarters across the street at 1:30 and taking his place at the open window of the Harmony Club at 18th and Olive Streets, and letting the warm southern wind blow through his whiskers for the half-hour preceding the game. Zukertort was not so prompt in getting on the field. Promptly at 2 o'clock, Steinitz led off with the white, playing his pawn to King's fourth, and then 4 moves were rapidly made, and the game was just growing intricate enough to hush the murmur in the room when Zukertort observed that his clock was not running, and after the white had played the 5th move, a recess of 20 minutes was taken, whilst the committee skirmished around for another clock. On the next day, after the match ended, the same newspaper published the following follow-up on the match. Yesterday's game was the most unsatisfactory one yet played in the Steinitz-Zukertort chess series. The day was beautiful, the men started promptly at the appointed hour, and the large audience expected to witness a brilliant contest. But just as the moves became intricate enough to hush the murmurs in the rooms, it was found that one of the clocks would not work, and the players had to wait for half an hour. Dr. Zukertort voiced the sentiments of the anxious spectators when he said he couldn't understand why the committee did not have two sets of clerks to provide against accident. Both players were rendered nervous by this interruption, and interest lagged even when play was resumed. The opening was an old chestnut well eaten up by bookworms, while nearly all the audience had been hoping that Steinitz would make one of his own brilliant openings and proceed to develop his system. As the plays succeeded one another without any startling departure from the regular book moves, disappointment began to show itself with a growing belief that the last of the series in St. Louis was to be the stupidest of all. So when, on the 22nd move, Dr. Zukertort proposed to call it a drawn, and Steinitz consented, there was considerable quiet delight among the old chess players at the prospect of another chance to see a good game. On the 17th move, the white was crowded back into the first row, making it necessary for him to effect a lively exchange of pieces, which resulted in the loss to each of a rook, bishop, and knight. There were 11 pieces on the board when the game was thrown up, but the local lights were nearly unanimous in the opinion that that was the best way out of a dull game, which would have added nothing materially to either's reputation had he won. The conditions of the match, requiring one player to win at least 3 games in this city, the contest will be continued tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock at the Harmony Club, 18th and Olive Streets. It is not unlikely that this may be won by Zukertort, which would still further prolong the series here. The total score now is Zukertort 4, Steinitz 3, drawn 1. St. Louis games, Steinitz 2, Zukertort none, and drawn 1. It will thus be seen that the first drawn game of the series occurred in this city. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, and if you want to support me and encourage me to continue making videos for the rest of this championship, then please subscribe and hit the like button. Thanks for watching.